Winter. Places like Pascagoula, New Orleans, Baton Rouge all had your coldest temperature in November compared to what you had all of last season. We had a lot of record lows across parts of the South, too. Check out these numbers. Birmingham, 18 degrees was your low this morning. Little Rock down to 17. Nashville down to 17, as well as Jackson, Mississippi at 22 and Shreveport at 21. Some of these records date all the way back to the early 1900s. So just smashing some of these. Temperatures right now is still very chilly. You've got 40 in Little Rock, 42 in Nashville. A far cry from the teens that you had earlier today. But we're likely going to be still breaking a few records in the next hour or so with the coldest high temperature we've ever had on this date. So we are below it still in Charleston. You're right at it in Wilmington and Hatteras. You're about 2 degrees below it. I don't think we're going to do much heating in the next hour, so likely that one will go down. Atlanta, you've only had 3 days so far this month where your temperature's actually been above average. Every other single day has been below average. So we are really working on a chilly start to November here. Temperatures are going to be gradually warming up. I really think we bottomed out here today, Mike, but still stayed below average even well into the weekend.
So much for joining us this evening. Great insight with what we've gone through here in the past, seven that got the hardest hit.
Right. So still a couple of days to prepare and get ready for the storm.
Yeah, I guess one big difference between this and the tropical storms you get in August, September is the temperature of the air. I mean, it'll be chilly on the backside of this coastal low.
We've had some coastal lows before, though, in like January that would produce snow. So
that's true.
At least it's not that either, right? It's somewhere in between, right? Hey, coming up here on Weather Underground, freezing temp. Well, now as Ocracoke recovers, the incoming coastal storm could bring storm surge and potentially some additional problems. The Washington Post recently published an article bringing up the question, is it time to retreat and leave North Carolina's barrier islands?
Tom Paul is the vice chairman of Ocracoke Township and is joining us on the phone right now. Thanks so much for being with us today.
I'm glad to be with you.
So what is your response to that?
And over the weekend, and it may not get a name, but there's got to be some concern even with...
We're not going away.
I apologize. We're out of time. The vice chairman of Ocracoke Township, thanks for being with us. We'll be right back.
Overall, I love it.
You can see the high clouds coming in from our next, our coastal storm that's going to be developing there.
Very cool. You can see these days with the
satellite.
Fantastic.
So cool. Well, coming up on Weather Underground.
Polar vortex. Love you, hate you.
Right.
It's definitely a love-hate relationship.
Right?
But you take a look at what our low-level temperature, we're talking like 850 millibars here, so just a couple thousand feet up in the air. Look where that cold air has settled in, right? It's gone from Canada all the way down into the south, including beyond Nashville with that Arctic invasion.
Right. So the air, of course, modifies as it moves farther south.
Still.
But unusually cold when we get these types of outbreaks. And when you look at the origin or where all that cold air is coming from, you really get a good idea of why we happen to be so very cold. So this traces all the way back to the North Pole, near the North Pole. I blamed Santa for it.
He's like, for you get a polar vortex.
He's just trying to warm us up.
Instead of cold, he's giving us polar vortex.
Right? But interesting that it can travel so far, right? Our weather doesn't happen usually on top of us. It's always coming from somewhere else.
At 17, a new daily record low for you in a place like Nashville. Now, a lot of times we look at bigger patterns across the globe, and one thing we can look at is the Arctic oscillation. What can happen when it goes into phases, positive phases, neutral phases, negative phases. So when you have a negative phase, which is what we're in right now, you tend to get weaknesses in the polar vortex, and when that happens, these little lobes of cold air can dip southbound, and that's what's happened this phase.
And even break off, and that's when we tend to break records sometime as well. So if we take a look at where the AO has been, notice we've been a bit in the negative phase for a while.
Well, kind of neutral, and then, but for the last couple of months, yes. So it kind of stands to reason, and maybe the ensemble forecast here for the next 2 weeks or so stays mostly negative, so...
There's a little chance, maybe a few members above average.
There's a chance.
There's a chance.
I like your optimism there, though.
Hey, all it takes is, one model to be right.
It does.
Let's hope it's the good one. Down across parts of Michigan, you got some snow on the ground across parts of Michigan and across much of the Great Lakes region too, right? So let's take a look at this graphic showing you the estimated snowfall that we've accumulated just over the past couple of days. And when you start to see some of this bright pink stuff over the UP and across one little part here over lower Michigan, that's more than 2 feet of snowfall. So it really has been impressive, especially for this time of the year. We do have a weak system that's crossing the Great Lakes right now, bringing some scattered snow showers across the region. This isn't going to amount to a ton, and quite honestly, it looks a little worse than it actually is on the radar because not everything's hitting the ground. So you can see Green Bay, you are getting some of the snow showers. You've got some which are reaching the ground into central parts of Illinois and into eastern parts of Iowa, but just getting a coating more than anything else here. And zooming in, showing you some of those snow showers around Muskegon and south of Cadillac. That's where we're getting some of the heavier accumulation.
There are some great Samaritans out there. There's no question about that. Hey, thanks for being with us. You're watching Weather Underground. I'm Mike Bettis.
And I'm Jacqui Jeras. We have 3 big weather headlines that we're covering for you tonight. Clearing snow, chilly temperatures, and a coastal storm. Do you see what I did there?
Definitely see that. You shouldn't have gotten the want. It was decent.
It was okay.
It was okay. It was okay. Let's start with the snow and how it all turned out. We're joined right now by that bus driver, Nicole Chamberlain. Nicole, thank you so much for being with us. Take us back to the moment. How did you spot them, and what did you think when you saw them out there? So what happens next? How do you reunite them with family? I saw you grabbed your phone. Were you calling the police, or what was the situation there? For you, we just received. The kids were actually being watched by their grandmother, who had gone into the basement for just a moment. Then the kids then wandered outside to look for their grandmother, thinking she had gone outside. She ended up showing up, I guess, a little bit after that, finding out the children had wandered away from home.
Yeah,
so
and the kids are okay.
Not necessarily negligence here in the basement at the time. So.
All right. Well, we're glad that they're okay.
Yeah.
Well, still to come on Weather Under